Okay, this video was a weird little abduction I had about 3 years ago. And I don't know if maybe the reptilians abducted me and maybe they threw me in this little remote view type of scene, because I wouldn't put it past them, because if they can put humans and other aliens, in my abductions, unbeknownst to them or whatever, then, the reptilians could have created this scenario for me and tried to exploit these female Greyz, But who knows? So, because, you never really know what's going on, because they can create any type of virtual reality experience for you, or abduction, out-of-body experience, or lucid dream, which the lucid dreams are abductions. Some of the lucid dreams are actually abductions, and the virtual reality experiences are abductions. And sometimes they are created by implants, and sometimes the virtual reality scenarios are ass-backwards abductions, where they take your astral body while you are awake, and then later they throw you in a virtual reality scenario. They somehow are using that astral body, your astral body. And of course you're in an altered state then, but you're totally conscious. Once you fall back to sleep, they somehow take it while you're awake, and you can feel them pull you out while you're awake. I can anyway. And they manipulate it and program it. And then when you go to sleep, you're in this freaking virtual reality experience. No different than just walking around in 3D. Or you're in a lucid dream, which feels almost like a virtual reality experience, except it's more like a dreamy state. So, I mean, these beings can screw with your head any way, shape, or form. Yeah, so anyway, this was about, and this was just a quick little abduction. Now, remote views are different. That's why I can't remember if this was out-of-body experience or if my astral mind was just there. I can't remember. But also in the remote views, compared to like out-of-body experiences, at least for me anyway, when I remote view, it's like I'm just stuck there. Like you can't move because your astral body isn't there. Like you're just stuck there, just your brain is stuck there, and you're looking at this virtual reality scenario. Yeah, so that's what the difference between remote view. It's different than out-of-body experience, because you can move around when you're out of body. But if it's remote view, like when they took me to Iraq, I was standing there, so to speak, but I could clearly tell my astral body was not there. Only my brain was there, my brain consciousness. And, I saw tanks, and it was cloudy. This was like a couple years ago. But yeah, so remote views are a little different than out-of-body experiences. And I think this was more like a remote view, but I can't remember exactly. So I was either standing there out of body, or I was just standing there by remote view, and of course I couldn't move or anything because just my brain consciousness was there. But I can't remember if I had my astral body with me or not. So that's why I'm calling it a remote view and possible out-of-body experience, because I can't remember. But yeah, so the lucid dreams and virtual reality experiences, well, sometimes they both can just be created by implants alone, or they can be created by them pulling your astral body out while awake. And then they tamper with it, and then you fall asleep, and then boom, they're somehow, magically creating that virtual reality scene for you with that stolen astral body that they just took from you while you were awake. At least that's how they do me anyway. And then, of course, out-of-body experiences, sometimes they can still take you while you're asleep, and you don't even know it, until they put you in the experience, and then you're totally conscious. And then sometimes the best way, the fun way that I like, is when they actually come to my bedroom and they pull me out right the couple split seconds before I fall asleep. That's what I love. And they haven't given me an out-of-body experience like that in a while. But that's the most fun. And there's no question, what the hell that is. That's obvious. That's an obvious out-of-body experience when they do it like that. But when they do it in all these other ways, sometimes I'm not, you're not really quite sure what, how they're taking you exactly. But yeah, so that's the difference between out-of-body experience and remote views. Yeah, somehow remote views, they're just somehow pulling out your consciousness and they're just sticking it in this. Now, and they can do it. See, I don't. Sometimes they can do it in real time too. They can put you in real time somewhere, and they've done that to me a few times. So when they stuck me in Iraq, that could have possibly been in real time. Possibly. Sometimes I know the difference. Back over 10 years ago, I could tell the experiences where they put me in real time. Well, actually, a lot of times I think they were putting me in real time. And a lot of times I thought they were sticking me in the heaven. I thought I was astral traveling to the heaven realm. And now I know that they may have been sticking me, they made me astral, travel and was sticking me in real time in another state. Like one time they took me to Tacoma, Washington. And like I say, I thought I was in the heaven realm, but now I know. Now I'm thinking all of that was a little different perception than what I thought it was back then. But I can talk about that later. So yeah, and then sometimes like when you're in bed, they literally, and you can feel them too, like the reptilians, they can literally just, you can feel them sucking you out. They can just kind of pull your consciousness out and you can feel them tugging at it and then boom, they just kind of throw you in. Well, actually, they present you with this live virtual reality sexual scene, but you can clearly tell, and that's even different than remote view. That's not quite the same as a remote view, but they can just kind of, at your bedside, tug at your consciousness, pull it out, and just kind of, and then, shove a virtual reality sexual scene at you, and you're sitting there staring at it, and you can get aroused. I mean, you'll be getting aroused. And then when you wake up back in 3D, you're still freaking aroused. But that's a little different than remote view. Because it's, I don't know, it's like a distance thing. It's like they're just kind of pulling your consciousness out. But yeah, that's a little different. And then when they do a remote view, it's like they take you at farther distances. So it's a distance thing between that and remote view. But yeah, when I'm in a remote view experience, which they don't do remote views on me very much, the aliens don't, which I'm glad because they're not as fun as all this other shit, as virtual reality experiences and lucid dreams and out-of-body experiences. They're not even nearly as fun. But this, okay, so anyway, so this experience was 3 years ago, and I was just standing there. They stole me somehow. I don't know if it was really these little Zetas, or if it was maybe another group of aliens giving me this experience and just kind of exploiting these Greyz, these female Greyz. But like I say, I mean, when I woke up from the experience, I mean, I guess I really thought it was the Zetas, the female Zetas. I like calling the female Greyz Zetas because when I think of Greyz, I think of males, so I call them Zetas. So these little female Zetas, I mean, like I say, now I don't really know if it was them giving me the experience. Like I say, it could have been another group of ETs, like the reptilians, because they can create anything for you and put anybody in the scenario, humans or aliens, or even these type of aliens, these little female Zetas, and these little female Zetas may not even have known that the reptilians were giving me this experience and acting like, these little female Zetas were brats, when really it was the reptilians being brats. But like I say, so I don't know. I don't know if it really was these beings that gave me this experience or if it was reptilians. But I could see the reptilians doing that. Because they have given me an abduction before, and they made it sexual after they presented this scene for me. And I was looking down on a basketball court, and it was these freaking 12-foot tall aliens walking around. They look kind of human, but you can clearly tell they were not human. They were robotic. And what they kind of look like... Because, see, I did watch Men in Black a couple times previous. And so I think they went off that. And I was looking down at the basketball court, and these robotic aliens, like 12 foot tall, were like walking around on the basketball court like total robots. You can clearly tell they weren't humans, although they look kind of human. And some of them were bald-headed. And they looked like that big tall being on Men in Black when they were sitting there. Those two aliens were sitting there, but they looked human. And one of them was really tall, but I mean, even in the movie, that whatever that thing was didn't even look human. I guess it probably was a real human, but yeah. So it's kind of like they went off that in my brain, and they created this abduction for me. And then after that, of course, it was like they placed me back up on a bed over to the side of the bleachers. But anyway, that was another abduction. Yeah, so, I mean, I wouldn't put it past the reptilians, But I could see the Greyz. I could see the Greyz, some female Greyz being ornery little shits. I could see them doing that. I could see them doing that. And if you watch that Saturday Night Live skit, which I don't really watch TV, but I came across it on YouTube, and it was totally funny. That one woman was saying the little Greyz were like slapping her in the boob. And so, see, that was kind of funny because, then I started thinking of this experience 3 years ago. And so, it is possible, I guess, they can be brats like that. And like I say, these are like female little Zetas that were slapping this guy in the face. Well, anyway, so here's how the experience went down. Okay, so I was standing there out of body, but I can't remember if I was out of body or if it was like remote view. So I was standing there in a virtual reality experience, just standing there overlooking these five or six female Greyz, which what I call Zetas, standing around a metal table. And they all had narrow heads. They were even probably a little more narrow than these three right here. They looked just like this, except I think their heads were just a tad bit more narrow. Their faces were a little more narrow. But they were shaped just like that. They looked just like that. What I drew here, but just their heads were a little more narrow. And so they were standing around a metal table, and there was this man laid out on the table, an abductee, and somehow I knew he was my age. I just already knew that. He had dark hair, and the bed was more straight on, with his feet pointing that way. Right here it's at an angle on this picture, but the table was more head on, and he was out like a light bulb, and somehow I knew he was my age. He had dark hair. He was totally out like a light bulb. And one by one, these little Zetas go up to him and start doing these motions like they were slapping him in the face. They weren't really slapping him in the face, but they were going up to him and presenting the motions. They were like getting really close to his face, acting like they were kind of slapping him in the face, but they were just kind of making light of it. They weren't really slapping him in the face. They were just doing the motions like they were slapping him in the face. And like I say, there were about 5 or 6 standing around the table. And this abductee was just laying there out like a light bulb. And so, it's kind of like, I guess they were probably trying to tell me that, hey, this is what we're doing to you and we abduct you, But, they didn't give me that message. They didn't telepathically give me that message, but it's possible that could be what they were trying to tell me. But oh yeah, but another thing too. So yeah, they were going one by one up to him and like and acting like they were slapping him in the face. And the whole time I was staring at their faces, they were like having these real funny smirking and grins on their face, and they were kind of laughing. I don't remember. I don't remember that they were making any noise or not. I don't think they were. I don't think they were making any noises. Sometimes they can talk and shit in the abductions and make noises and stuff, but yeah, I recall this experience being quiet. Although I did look at their faces and they were laughing and smirking and grinning. And so yeah, so who knows? I don't know what that experience was all about, but they, like I say, they somehow abducted me, either my consciousness or both, my astral body and consciousness, and they stuck me in this scenario. And like I say, I was just standing there. I didn't move or anything, and I was just keeping a straight face. I mean, I was just keeping a straight face, watching it, observing it, and I was just keeping a total straight face. Yeah, so, like I say, I wouldn't put it past the reptilians, you know. They could be exploiting they could have given me this experience and be exploiting these little Zetas, you know, acting like, hey, you know, like, you know, making me think that these little Zetas are brats, you know, when it could have been the reptilians. But like I say, I can see some of the Greyz being brats like that. I could totally see that. But like I say, the female Greyz I like to call Zetas, because when I think of a Grey, I don't think of a female, I think of a male. So in my head, I started naming the, you know, if I ever come across a female Grey, then I like to call them Zetas. But anyway, that was my experience. It was very, very, very quick. And thanks for listening. But yeah, I can do another video on the differences between like remote view, out-of-body experience, virtual reality experience, and lucid dream. Okay, well, thanks for listening.